Hey, this is Dr. Paul Firnhaber. It's Wednesday, and that means it's time for another 10 minutes of truth. So this week, I want to talk about toxicity, an article that came out in January in the New England Journal of Medicine, which is one of the four top journals in the world, and how that relates to, first of all, your children, but how it relates to you as an adult. This is really important information. So we're going to start out with the New England Journal of Medicine article first. And the name of this article is called Manufactured Chemicals in Children's Health, the Need for New Law. Now, the New England Journal of Medicine is pretty much a blue blood medical journal, which means that it really pushes and supports the practice of medicine. But this article is really different. It talks about how toxicity is affecting the long-term health of children. So I just want to go over a few things in here. It says chronic non-communicable diseases are on the rise in children. Asthma, obesity, and even certain childhood cancers now occur far more frequently than they did a few generations ago. According to this article in the New England Journal of Medicine, these diseases rank among the leading causes of illness and death in young children. This study from the New England Journal of Medicine points out that environmental pollution and exposure to synthetic chemicals is widespread. And these chemicals, most of which are produced from fossil fuels, are creating huge problems in children's health. Synthetic chemicals appear to be a key part of chronic diseases in children, such as heart disease and diabetes. One example is the significant rise in childhood cancers, which is about 35% more cases than seen 50 years ago. It also reports that male reproductive birth defects have doubled in frequency. And these trends, this article says, suggest that children's bodies, which are still developing, are less capable of defending against these chemicals, which are found in everything, found in food packaging and household products. Now listen to this. This is very powerful. Neurodevelopment disorders affect 1 in 6 children, and autism spectrum disorder is diagnosed in 1 in 36 children. Environmental factors appear to be one of the main culprits in all of this. The New England Journal of Medicine paper estimated there's around 350,000 manufactured chemicals, mixtures, and plastics in global inventories. And you can find these everywhere, from plastic toys and bottles to furniture, upholstery, carpeting, and electronics. Now, the problem is that these cleaners and these chemicals, they don't have the same rigorous inspection that like pharmaceuticals do. So pharmaceuticals have to be proven safe, which, I think there's some, speculation there as well, but theoretically they are, but these chemicals don't. They don't have to be proven that they're safe. In other words, the way the laws are written, they have to be proven that there's a problem with them before you can take action, which is a lot harder. This oversight, this lack of oversight, leads to a situation where health impacts only become clear once a generation of children has already been exposed. Now, part of the problem with this is that not all of this is instantaneous. So you can expose kids when they're young, and the disease may not show up until years later. So it doesn't always show up right away. They found out that the way that we found out that toxic chemicals can affect kids is there are 3 different things that happen. Number one is this incident in I believe it was in the 1950s when pregnant mothers ate fish that were severely contaminated with mercury, and it didn't hurt them, but their kids had profound neurological developmental disorders. Another one was thalidomide. So we found out this was in the 50s and 60s, which is, the time that I was born, and thank God my mother didn't take any of it. But, children were born with severe limb deformities. And they realized then that these drugs can pass the placental barrier and affect the fetus. And the third one was the diethylstilbestrol problem that came out where women who took diethylstilbestrol were not harmed, but their female progeny experienced much higher rates of cancer. So we know that chemicals can pass through the placental barrier and harm children. And so the laws today do not favor limiting these chemicals or examining them and testing them very closely. The laws are much more slanted toward the chemical industry, which is ultimately harming kids. And we know that chemicals harm kids. If you go back to the 1950s through the 70s, when they used to put lead in gasoline, once they took the lead out of gasoline, kids' IQs began to go up. That was lowering the IQs of children. We know that lead does that. That was a great thing of unleaded gas, is that we're not being exposed to it anymore. And they've even done samples of lead from kids that were born and raised in that time period compared to now, and the lead levels are way less now than they were then. So how do we measure this? Well, there are tests that measure toxicity, toxic chemicals, mycotoxins such as molds, and heavy chemicals. There's one called the total tox burden, which is a very, very good test that measures all of that. Now, here's what some of these labs have found. They found that anyone with a chronic disease, a chronic degenerative disease, they found 90 to 95% of these people have at least 3 toxic chemicals exposures at high levels in their bodies. They found that 70% have at least one mold, one high level of mold, and 20 to 25% have at least high levels of one heavy metal. So doing a toxicity test can expose all this, and then there are certain ways, certain protocols that you can go through that will help detoxify the body. Now, what are some of the problems that toxicity causes? Well, let's look at some of the neurological problems that have been found. Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, cognitive decline, tinnitus, people with bad tinnitus. Sometimes this is a toxic metal problem or just a toxicity issue. Loss of balance, depression, anxiety, light sensitivities, difficulty concentrating. These are neurological symptoms that can come from toxicity. Unexplained hypertension, unexplained hypotension, gastrointestinal problems like chronic abdominal pain, pancreatic cancer, reduced absorption of nutrients, osteoporosis, unexplained skin rashes, renal failure or kidney dysfunction, liver dysfunction, infertility, difficulty conceiving, miscarriages, chronic fatigue and weakness. All of these things can come from toxicity. And so if you can measure what's going on with toxicity and find out what it is, and then start detoxing these people, it takes about 9 to 12 months to really get all of this out of a person who has high levels of these things. They can really get better. And right now in medicine, what they're doing is just giving drugs for the symptoms, but they're not getting to the underlying cause. So kids that have chronic health issues, adults that have chronic health issues where nobody's been able to solve the problem, a lot of times doing a toxicity test will reveal the cause, and then you can get at the underlying cause and fix that. And that's what we do here at Lincoln Disc and Nutrition. So this New England Journal of Medicine article, very powerful article. I thought it was very good. And when you combine this with what can be done and can be discovered about toxicity in not only kids' bodies, but adults' bodies, you can really help these people and really eliminate the underlying thing that's causing a lot of their health issues. So I've given you a lot to think about today. If you want to talk to me more about this, our number here at Lincoln Disc and Nutrition is 402-488-2220. We want you to be healthy. We want you to live vibrant, productive lives. And that's our goal here at Lincoln Disc and Nutrition. So hope you got something out of this today. And we'll see you next Wednesday for another edition of 10 Minutes of Truth.